Hello, world. Welcome to episode 92 of the Jimmy Canz Show. It's classic supercard retrospective time yet again. Let us take a look back at Wrestle War 90 Wild Thing. Yes, Wild Thing. This was an NWA event promoted by World Championship Wrestling and held on February 25th. 1990 from the Greensboro Coliseum in Greensboro, North Carolina. Attendance was a little over 7,800. Now, this is a venue that seats over 20,000, so we're only at about 39% capacity here. And I think this show, honestly, was a sign of the tried and true core of the NWA WCW fan base being fed up with the direction that Jim Herd was taking this promotion. There was a lot of dissatisfaction with the direction the company was going in. But anyway, this was broadcast live on pay-per-view, and it was later released on home video courtesy of Turner Home Entertainment. Action was called by Jim Ross and Terry Funk. It's a 7-match card. Lots of tag matches on this one. Let's get into it and let's talk about it. All right. Opening contest. I said, speaking of tag team matches, this is how we kick it off. The Dynamic Dudes, Shane Douglas, Johnny Ace against a new stable, the Slaughterhouse, headed up by Kevin Sullivan. And it was repped in this match by Sullivan himself and Mad Dog Buzz Sawyer. The third member of this actual faction was Cactus Jack Manson. So there was that. Sawyer actually would end up leaving shortly after this and was replaced in this stable by an incoming Bam Bam Bigelow. So there was that as well, that little side story on the situation there as well. The match in and of itself goes about 10 minutes. And it was a warm-up match for the crowd. And it's pretty obvious here that the luster that WCW once had for the dudes is gone as Sullivan and Sawyer go over. And honestly, this was the last time that the dudes ever teamed together, as Douglas would depart the promotion shortly after this. And Johnny would go on to a singles career for a little while in the promotion before actually departing the promotion himself as well and taking his talents over to the land of the rising sun, which is, the majority and of his career and the most success he had was actually over in Japan. But I digress. So there you have that one. Next up, our only singles match of the evening besides the main event. Norman, the now lunaticless Norman, thank God they changed his name here. Like I said, that was very un-PC. The whole character's on PC, actually. Sign of the times, I guess. Anyway, Norman taking on Slaughterhouse member Cactus Jack Manson. It's pretty back and forth here. Cactus takes obviously some solid bumps, as you would expect. And he takes another L in his second big outing in the land of Turner here when Norman counters a pile driver attempt into kind of the whoopsie squash, I guess we could call it, for lack of a better way to describe it. And if memory serves, I think Nick left to work some other promotions shortly after this show and polish his craft a little bit more. He does end up returning to the promotion in 1991. And like I said, he's a member of the Slaughterhouse here, but honestly, that whole faction doesn't have a very long shelf life in the promotion. So it's not, it's kind of a footnote in history, but it did exist. Anyway, next up, another tag match. And we get another page in a wrestling feud for the ages as the two expresses clash again. as the Rock and Roll Express, Ricky Morton, Robert Gibson take on James E. Cornette's Midnight Express, Sweet Stan Lane, Beautiful Bobby Eaton. I honestly think this feud lasted from like the 1980s until the 2010s. It's like a 40-year feud. Pretty crazy to think about. But anyway, these four work together so much and have such in-ring chemistry from all the outings together that, it's just clear. Always solid matches. This particular chapter, the Rock and Roll end up getting the win in this one. Morton takes out Eaton, and then Gibson is able to get a roll up on Lane for the win. But I think really the reality of the situation here was that the booking committee here at the time and the Midnight were on the outs. They weren't seeing eye to eye. So it wasn't too long after this before Cornette and WCW had a complete and total falling out, and he left the promotion never to return. So next up, you guessed it, our third tag match of the evening. This one is a Chicago street fight, and it's here to close out the feud between the Road Warriors and the Skyscrapers. Hawk and Animal, Precious Paul Ellering take on Theodore Arlong's third and quote-unquote final incarnation of the Skyscrapers, for a little while at least, as Mean Mark Callis and the Masked Skyscraper come out in this one. And the Masked Skyscraper was actually AWA contracted talent, and one half of the AWA Tag Team Champions, Mike Enos. I think that's why he was masked. They didn't want to promote, that he was working for a rival promotion, and end up in breach of contract or anything. So there's no mention of his real identity. And I think really the real story here is that, Ole Anderson was the head booker at the time. And I think Dan Spivey just was pretty much fed up with the way Ole was booking things. And shortly before this show, I don't know if it was a TV taping or just a house show loop or whatever, he looked at Mark in the locker room after the show and just looked at him and said, "Tell Ole I'm done. I'm going home." And he got up and left. He pretty much quit the company. This match was already announced, so they, just pulled an audible and contacted Enos to fill in. So, the match in and of itself was a typical Road Warriors type match. Eventually, Mark gets fed up with his masked partner and ends up walking out at the end. So no shocker here due to the entire situation, with Spivey, the substitute, the breaking up of the team, et cetera, et cetera. The Road Warriors hit a Doomsday device and go over here. And post-match, this one's really remembered for the post-match angle, as it now set up the next feud for the Warriors as the unmasked team of Doom, Butch Reed and Ron Simmons, are in the aisle with Long and hit the ring. And, shocker, carnage and melee ensue. Everything all breaks loose. That led to, total dissolving of the Skyscrapers and put Theodore Arlong, as now the manager of Doom. Now, my bigger question here, this post-match angle, is simply why are Simmons and Reed in tuxedos? And furthermore, why is Ron Simmons wearing snakeskin cowboy boots with a tuxedo? So those are the real mysteries here. So next up, Another tag match, number 4 on the night. 5 matches, 4 of them tag. As the NWA United States Tag Team Champions, Flying Brian Pillman and the Z-Man defend against the Fabulous Freebirds, Jimmy Jam Garvin, Michael P.S. Hayes. And no real big surprise in this one, either, as the champions retain. But, you know, we don't know who the legal man is. Spot by the Birds is the way it kind of ends. But honestly, you know, the titles had just been deactivated back in May of '89 when Gilbert and Rick Steiner held them due to Rick forming a new team with his brother Scott. And they deactivated the belts and then made the decision to reactivate them the very beginning of 1990 in January, and held a tournament to crown new champions. And the finals of that tournament were just really aired the night before, with Pillman and Z-Man defeating the Birds in the finals there. So honestly, like, this match makes, 0 sense to kind of have, because you just saw it the night before, and it would have made 0 sense to turn around and have Pillman and Z-Man go over in the tournament, beating the Birds, to just turn around and lose the titles 24 hours later. If you wanted the Birds to be the champions, why not just have them win the tournament? Would have made 0 sense to use a transitional, 24-hour transitional champion when they were already vacant at the first place. Usually transitional champions are to, get the belts onto, belt and or belts onto, new people without, creating friction between said people, so if one baby face has it and you want it to be on a different baby face, you don't have 2 baby faces face each other back then. So you'd have a heel do a quick win just to turn around, drop it to the new baby face. And like I said, these titles were already vacant. So if you wanted the heels to have the belts, why not just have them win the tournament? So it's kind of a foregone conclusion which way this one was going to go. But anyway, next up, another tag match. The final tag match of the night. The Legit Brother Tandem, Rick and Scott Steiner, the Steiner brothers defending the NWA World Tag Team titles against Kayfabe Brothers and Horseman members, Ole and Arn Anderson. Arn is the TV champion currently at this time. Ole's booking, really kind of winding down his in-ring career. So it's not too surprising that, the Steiners would go on and retain in this matchup. The solid tag contest goes about 16 minutes. You've got 4 of the best tag wrestlers in the history of the business in there, so it's no surprise that it was a solid match, solid ring work. But the ending came with just a simple roll up of Arn by Rick. So winners and still NWA World Tag Team Champions, the Steiner brothers. And now we have our audibled main event of the evening. NWA World Champion Nature Boy Ric Flair, who was accompanied by a woman, defending against NWA United States Champion, the Total Package Lex Luger, who was seconded out there by Sting. We all know this was supposed to be Flair versus Sting, and Luger was originally scheduled to defend the U.S. title against Dr. Death Steve Williams, but that didn't happen, as Luger had to be substituted in due to legit leg injury that Sting sustained during the last Clash. And this is a typical Flair match. Goes 40 minutes. Flair gets into spots, the flip, the top rope press, the flop, et cetera, et cetera. All the classic Flair spots. Luger does his screaming, grunting thing throughout the match. And The Andersons make their way out, but their attempts on Luger prove unsuccessful. So then they turn around and turn their attention and start attacking an injured Sting. So Luger goes out to help, ends up being counted out, trying to save his friend. So, the Horsemen play their part and help Flair retain. So your winner and still world champion as a result of the count out is your boy Ric Flair. And, as an overall show, decent wrestling really in most of the matches, and some decent story work as well. But my biggest gripe with this, as with a lot of their shows in this era, is just way too many tag matches. Like I said, there were even more tag matches in this show than there were in the last Clash. It was a 7-match card, and you only had 2 singles matches. So, of those 2 single matches, only one of your singles titles was defended. So just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Arn is your TV champion, and he's in a tag match. Your US champ is in there with your world champ. I know they had to pull the audible there, and that wasn't the original plan. There was supposed to be, a US title match on this show, but I think there were other ways that you could have worked this thing out. Maybe you have the US title match, and then the winner of that gets to go on then and challenge Flair. And then maybe you put Flair in some type of warm-up match so that, it's fair that both men wrestled at least one previous. Something along those lines. There's just better ways, I think, to do it and create a little more variety. But anyway, on my 10-belt scale, I'll give Wrestle War 90 Wild Thing a 6 out of 10. Like I said, it's really solid wrestling and storytelling, just not enough variety in the show for my taste. I think there were a lot better ways to book the talent that they had at this point in time than what we got. So there you have it. Next up in our classic Supercard retrospectives, we will discuss, of all the forces in the universe, none more powerful than Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior in the Ultimate Challenge WrestleMania 6. This was a first, really, in wrestling, especially in this era. Your 2 biggest babyface champions colliding in a champion versus champion, title for title contest. So that'll be a fun one to discuss. A lot of different things happen at Mania 6. We'll get into that next time. So please give the channel a like, a share, subscribe wherever you are. I hope you're doing well. Take care of one another, and I will see you when I see you.